Police say when they went to the house, they found an elderly relative who requires full-time help had been left behind, as well as the pets. But there was no sign of the family.
Imagine living through a day that starts just like any other, only for it to end in unimaginable confusion. What if, in the final moments before your life changed forever, there were cryptic messages, strange visitors, and unsettling signs that something was terribly wrong? In this gripping story, we explore the last 24 hours before a family mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind more questions than answers. Were they taken, or did they vanish by choice? Join us as we delve into the chilling details of what really happened before they vanish without a trace. A normal day turns into chaos. For the Harrison family, the day began like any other. Mark and Sarah had their usual morning routine, getting the kids, Emma and Jake, ready for school and exchanging quick goodbyes before heading to work. Mark, who worked as an accountant, had plans to meet some friends for dinner that evening, while Sarah, a project manager, had an important meeting scheduled. Everything seemed completely normal. However, as the day unfolded, Sarah couldn't shake an odd feeling of unease. She had a nagging sense that something was going to happen, but she couldn't pinpoint what. She tried to brush it off, focusing on her work, but the feeling lingered throughout the day. Despite the uneasiness, the family continued their routines, unaware that this seemingly normal day would soon spiral into an inexplicable mystery. As Sarah went through her meeting and Mark prepared for his evening plans, they couldn't have known that these last few hours would set the stage for their sudden disappearance. From the smallest of unsettling occurrences to the shocking events that would follow, it quickly became apparent that the Harrison family's fate was about to take a dark turn.
It looked to be intentional, and it looked to be without malice.
What began as an ordinary day was quickly turning into something far more sinister. A cryptic phone call. Around 2:30 p.m. While Sarah was in the middle of a work meeting, she received an unexpected phone call that would send chills down her spine. The call came from an unknown number, and when Sarah answered, the voice on the other end was distorted and difficult to understand. The only clear words she could make out were, "They're coming." Before she could ask for clarification, the line abruptly went dead. Sarah tried calling the number back, but it was unlisted, and the call didn't go through. She was left feeling unnerved, unsure whether the call had been a prank or a legitimate warning. The cryptic nature of the phone call would haunt Sarah for the rest of the day. Her mind raced with possibilities. Was someone threatening her family? Had someone targeted them? Or was it a random message meant to confuse and terrify? Sarah tried to dismiss the call as a fluke, but the unsettling feeling continued to gnaw at her. She couldn't shake the sense that something dangerous was looming, but at the time, she had no way of knowing just how significant that phone call would become. Little did she know, this moment would serve as a chilling prelude to the family's eventual disappearance. A strange visitor. Later that evening, just before Mark left to meet his friends for dinner, a mysterious man appeared at the Harrison family's doorstep. He was tall, unshaven, and dressed in an oversized coat, which made him look out of place in the quiet, suburban neighborhood. When Mark opened the door, the man asked in a low, nervous voice if he could speak with someone named Sarah. Mark, puzzled and slightly uneasy, asked the man who he was looking for, but the stranger hesitated and mumbled something incoherent about needing directions. When pressed further, he couldn't offer any specifics, simply saying he was looking for someone. The encounter left Mark with an unsettling feeling. He couldn't shake the sense that the man was hiding something. After the brief conversation, the stranger left abruptly, walking away without any further explanation. Mark went inside, tried to shake off the strange interaction, and decided to mention it to their neighbors. However, after speaking with others nearby, Mark discovered that no one had seen the man before, and it was unclear what he had wanted. Disturbed by the encounter, Mark made the decision to call the police, but by the time they arrived to investigate, the mysterious man had vanished without a trace. leaving behind more questions than answers. The disappearing act. That evening after dinner, Mark returned home expecting to find his family in the house, but something was terribly wrong. The front door was unlocked, and the house felt unnervingly silent. Mark called out for Sarah, Emma, and Jake, but there was no response. Their belongings, such as Emma's toys scattered across the living room and Sarah's purse left on the kitchen counter, were still in place, yet the house seemed completely empty. The eerie stillness made Mark feel as if the family had simply vanished, leaving everything behind without a trace. At first, Mark thought they had just stepped out briefly to run errands or visit a friend, but hours passed and there was no sign of them. He attempted to reach Sarah on her phone, but her line went straight to voicemail, and there was no response from the kids either. Panic began to set in as he realized this was no ordinary disappearance. It felt as though the family had disappeared in the blink of an eye. Mark checked all possible places, neighbors' houses, nearby stores, even the car, but there was no sign of them. The house was the same, but the family was gone, leaving Mark with a gut-wrenching feeling of dread that something was terribly wrong. The mysterious surveillance footage. The breakthrough came when the police reviewed security footage from a nearby street camera that had captured some activity around the Harrison house. The footage showed Mark's car leaving the driveway at approximately 9:15 p.m. after dinner, but it did not show anyone else in the car. The family's car, which was parked in the driveway just before Mark left, remained there, but there was no sign of Sarah, Emma, or Jake. The footage clearly indicated that Mark had driven away alone, but what puzzled investigators was that there was no footage of the family leaving or of anyone else entering the house. It was as though they had simply vanished from the property while Mark was gone. Investigators were left with a chilling question. If Mark had left, where did the family go? Their car was still parked at the house, suggesting they hadn't taken it, yet no sign of them could be found. The lack of footage of them leaving, combined with the fact that Mark drove away alone, made it seem like something strange had happened in those hours after he left. The footage, though helpful in confirming Mark's movements, only deepened the mystery. If the family had gone somewhere, why leave the car behind? And why wasn't anyone seen leaving the house? The unanswered questions from the surveillance footage haunted the investigation as it added more layers to the vanishing act. The unanswered questions. As time passed, the mystery of the Harrison family's sudden disappearance only grew more perplexing. Despite extensive investigations, there were no new leads or clear answers. The cryptic phone call Sarah received, the strange man who visited their house, and the unusual surveillance footage were all pieces of the puzzle, yet they didn't form a coherent picture. What was the significance of the call? Who was the mysterious man at the door, and why did he leave so abruptly? And why had Mark left the house alone, only to return to find his family gone? These questions haunted the authorities and the community, leaving everyone with a sense of helplessness. Years later, the case remains unsolved, with no solid theories to explain the Harrison family's disappearance. Every piece of evidence, from the cryptic phone call to the eerie silence in the house, only raises more questions without providing definitive answers. Had the family been the victims of a crime, or did they disappear voluntarily for reasons no one could understand? The investigation into their whereabouts continues, but the mystery lingers, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions that will likely never be resolved. The truth about what happened to the Harrisons remains locked in the final moments of that fateful day, forever a chilling enigma. The mystery of the Harrison family's disappearance continues to captivate and unsettle those who hear their story. Despite the clues left behind, cryptic phone calls, strange visitors, and eerie surveillance footage, the truth remains hidden, leaving more questions than answers. What truly happened in those final hours? Was it a carefully planned escape, a tragic crime, or something else entirely? As the investigation drags on, the chilling uncertainty of the case serves as a haunting reminder that sometimes the truth is more elusive than we can imagine. Keep following, and perhaps one day, the answers will finally surface. Until then, the mystery endures.